Everyone has their story and way path to find their success. No two paths are the same. The other thing is people don't want to hear this. It's just do the work. It's hard. And by the way, it doesn't one day you wake up and the work gets easier. You just get into the rhythm of it and it doesn't feel as hard, but you still have to show up every single day.
Welcome to the Main Street Success Stories podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Kok. I've been a business owner for about 25 years, and now I'm a business coach. I actually turned my first business into a franchise and successfully sold it after owning and operating it for 20 years. I prioritize building a business while also building a life and love working with the creative entrepreneur. I mostly work with emerging business owners who desire growth. They are in their first 5 years of the journey and want a plan that's going to help them succeed for years to come. They're tired of not getting paid enough, feel stuck, and want more for their business and family. If you are a business owner and you're feeling stressed about how to attract more customers, you have a really good sales month, but then you look at your bank account and wonder where the money went. You look at your financial statements, but if you're being honest, you're not really sure what to do with the information. And you just tell yourself, if I work harder, it'll fix all my issues, only to feel exhausted and never see things improve. You're here because you want to build your business, but you also want to build a life that you love. I invite you to learn more about one of my 3 coaching programs designed to help you earn more and stress less. You can choose which option works best for you. Imagine this. You have a clear plan and momentum, and you're gaining more clients every week. Your revenue climbs by 20% or more. You save 5 hours a week because you know exactly where to show up. You're experiencing double-digit growth in your profits. People refer customers to your business because they understand exactly who you help and what you do. If this is you and you desire more, reach out, let's have a conversation, and you can click in the show notes below. Today, I sit down with Scott Vogel, owner of Nothing Bundt Cakes in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Scott shares his journey of transitioning from corporate America to entrepreneurship with his wife, Christine, and the challenges they face, the failures and the victories along the way. They went from depleting almost all of their savings to building a thriving community-focused business. His story is a story full of grit, resiliency, and giving back. You're listening to the next episode of the Main Street Success Stories podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Kok, a 25-year entrepreneur, and I created Main Street Success Stories to share others' journeys to help you learn, grow, stay motivated, and know that you are not alone in this game called entrepreneurship. Today, I just want you to tune in and listen to Scott open up very transparency about his lessons he's learned, the toughness that he showed when things were stacked up against him, and how when you just keep betting on yourself and showing up, you too can succeed just like Scott and Christine. I invite you now to listen in. Hey, Scott, I am so excited to have you on today.
No, so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, Scott, I've been following you. I've been stalking you and your wife, Christine, for a while on LinkedIn. You know, you and I are both in the same community. We're here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I used to own a bakery, and you are the owner of Nothing Bundt Cakes here in Grand Rapids. You opened the first location in West Michigan, correct?
Yeah, actually the first location in all of Michigan.
Okay.
And I always joke, Grand Rapids is the smallest big town you'll ever live in. So we cross paths a lot, actually, over the last couple of years.
We did. And I am a big fan of Nothing Bundt Cakes. Let me tell you, even, I'm a big fan of any sweets when you own a bakery, right? But what you guys are producing is amazing.
Well, and we kind of joke about it, and I think you'll fully appreciate this, is that if it wasn't good, we'd be in a lot of trouble. It's not like we have a lot of fallback plans. The sweets have to be amazing, and all we do is bundt cakes, so we do one thing and one thing exceptionally well.
Well, there's a lot of lessons to be learned in that, and that could actually be a topic for a podcast in itself. But today I want to kind of dive into just a little bit. I guess, first of all, take us up to speed and give us the short version of your journey of how you started and became an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I almost feel like I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. And I think all of us will appreciate this. We get typecasted in our career journeys unless you're switching every couple of years. And for me, I was in product development and innovation, which is truly, I feel like the entrepreneurial spirit. And so my world was small kitchen household appliances. So think George Foreman grill. Think about the Keurig single serve brewer. Also Shark Ninja, those infomercials that are at night and you have to buy that vacuum because it's going to change your life. That was my world, and it led me across the country. And then we moved from Boston to Grand Rapids. And Bissell was this amazing company, needed help in their deep cleaning, carpet cleaning division. And we moved to West Michigan, never been here before. But I've always been steeped in like the innovation side of things where you're trying to be either 3 to 5 years ahead of everyone else with that next big thing that drive the revenue for a company, or you're going to run in the opposite direction of everyone and do something different, but be obviously best in class. And so throughout my whole career, it's just always been driving towards something that has been new, innovative, and exciting. And I absolutely loved it from my background.
You know, you're right. You hit the nail on the head with the DNA of an entrepreneur. They're either always very super curious and want to see how they can make something better, or they see a problem that needs to be solved. So for you, it sounds like it was fueled by let's be unique, different, innovation. So you came here for a corporate job.
Correct.
Okay.
And so coming to West Michigan was never on our radar screen. My wife was from Chicago and she vacationed up in Michigan. And the way Chicago works with vacationing is that there's like this imaginary halfway point. If you're north of that halfway point, you go to Wisconsin. If you're south, you go to Michigan. So when I said, listen, there's this amazing company in Grand Rapids, my wife said, well, that feels like a second home to me. Let's go check it out. So it naturally kind of worked into something that, oh gosh, this could be a good fit for my family and I.
Well, our community is very thankful that you guys made that choice because you have made a big impact on our community since you guys opened. So you're at Bissell, which, small story, two of my daughters work at Bissell.
Really?
Yes.
Again, West Michigan, the smallest big town you'll ever live in. There's a connection to everything.
Connection to everything, and they love it. Great company. So you're there for a while, and you just had this bug, obviously, to be an entrepreneur. What fueled you to say, you know what, Christine, let's do this? Because you guys did this together, right? When you jumped in, you didn't have a second career income coming into your family when you launched. And
I wouldn't necessarily fully recommend doing what we did, but it's what happened. So for the absolute record, Bissell, phenomenal company, phenomenal family, multi-generational family, driving a company that is steeped in great values. I did have the entrepreneurial itch, but also I guess I was moving every 5 to 7 years for positive reasons for that next big job. And, the writing's on the wall. At a certain point, you get really expensive. You start moving up. And I believe that, Bissell could have been a place for me to retire. But I was interviewing someone for a position who invented the Miller Lite Vortex bottle. And I don't know who remembers that, but it was a little grooved neck of the bottle. And the guy had lost his job and was looking to stay closer to West Michigan with his family. And he was a little bit older. And I was gung-ho to add him to the team. But my team kind of pushed back. It was very younger and couldn't understand why this individual wanted to live closer to home. And it just hit me over the head of this could be me in, say, 10 or 15 years. And while I joke about this with my wife, there are less risky endeavors to make West Michigan our forever home. We said, listen, why don't we go out on our own or think about it? And I posed that question, and it was kind of funny. Nothing Bundt Cakes is a franchise. And what's very different about it is that you do all the baking and frosting by hand. It's not like this, halfway baked, this baked cake comes in through the back door and this magic lever. No, it's just old school baking and frosting, great recipes, great brand name. And people kept bringing it to us. And so my wife actually studied to be a pastry chef for just a short period of time. And so when I turned to her at a celebration in Chicago with her family, I go, this is a franchise? And she goes, no way. And I said, well, what do you think if we did this? And I was kind of joking. And she goes, sure. And so,
wow.
And I give context to my wife saying, sure, that her brother is an entrepreneur. He started Cooper's Hawk Winery and Restaurants and still the CEO of it, which is this huge organization. And then her dad started a gas station concept and has grown it to 34 locations. And so for her, the entrepreneurial spirit is not a scary thing. And when I said to my parents, hey, I'm going to quit my corporate job and I'm going to open up a bakery, it was almost like there was a death in the family because no one on my side was an entrepreneur. I had health benefits, a 401k, and stable employment. What are you doing? And so that's why my wife could easily and quickly just go, sure, let's do this. And then before you know it, if you raise your hand, you look at yourself and say, holy crap, we just agreed to this. We're doing this.
Right. And no turning back now.
No turning back. Like we signed the paperwork. And so we literally quit our jobs with 3 young children and we went for it, which is completely insane because usually with a franchise, you need multiple locations to be able to turn over enough revenue to be able to support a family. So yeah, I think ignorance is bliss, right?
Totally. And I think I just love your guys' entrepreneurial story because, a lot of us didn't jump into entrepreneurship with entrepreneur background. So that was nice. Your wife had that perspective. And so often I can remember when I jumped in and left a corporate career too, you get that look of like almost deer in headlights when you tell people who don't quite get the way we roll, your family members, and they look at you like, what are you doing? Like, is this really going to happen? But you know what? Here we are. And thank goodness we have people that are willing to jump in and take that leap of faith.
Well, it is funny when we'd been in West Michigan about 2.5 years. We knew a few people, but not a lot of people. It's a close-knit community. And we started to tell people, wait a second, we're going to open a bakery. It's the first Nothing Bundt Cakes in Michigan altogether. So no one knew what it was. And then you say, hey, we're opening a bakery. All it does is bundt cake. And then they kind of lean in, they look at you, and they give you this Midwest nice look. And then in their mind is this tape rolling that goes, man, I don't know if they're going to keep their home. Like it's the truth. They thought we were crazy. And then when I told Bissell I was leaving, I think that they weren't ready for a response to that because they're like, wait, you're leaving not for another houseware company. You're opening a bakery that just does bundt cake. Like, what are you doing? And a lot of people actually came back and admitted that to me, who I worked with at Bissell, in a nice way. I mean, they're great people.
Right. Well, you know what? I think a lot of people can resonate with your story because a lot of us hear that from outsiders, but then also sometimes say that to ourselves after we've jumped in. So you jump in, you guys are all in, you're going to do Nothing Bundt Cakes, literally. And then what? How did you start to find your way? Because I think you said something really pivotal about the fact that you didn't have a huge support network. And a lot of times when we start businesses, we rely on family and friends to be our free employees, so to speak, and to get the word out, and we can make connections, that guerrilla marketing that has to happen when you first launch. So here you guys are doing that with very little support. So you had to get, once again, creative. So tell us kind of what you did to help get your name out there in our community.
I definitely want to, to share that we were an epic failure at the beginning. No one was coming into our building. And I think there's a couple things. Is one, West Michigan, to its benefit, not its detriment, is so close-knit. And they want to support people. But if they don't know you, you're just another brick and mortar that just opened their doors, who's just trying to take our money. And all they do is bundt cake. What are these people doing? And so it started off extremely slow. And so it was rough. And there was this bullheadedness with me. And I was very careful how we capitalized the business. My wife and I were the only investors. We set it up that way so we could make decisions when we needed to, and just that we didn't have outside noise, right, wrong, or indifferent. And so we capitalized very conservative, saying, okay, if everything goes wrong, we're going to be okay. We're going to keep our house. So everything does go wrong. And then you find yourself taking money out of savings more to help prop up the business. And then your son gets sick and medical bills start coming in, and you still don't lay off your team because you're too bullheaded. What we did during that time, interestingly enough, led to our success was we kept baking, we kept frosting, and we kept giving, and we kept engaging. If there was a meeting anywhere in the community, we showed up, and we showed up with cake. We would stand on street corners handing out samples of cake and coupons, and we gave away hundreds of thousands of buntlets, our personal size bundt cakes. We just kept emptying our refrigerator over and over and over again. And literally, I was like, I got this team baking and frosting. And we did set up the business like we want to give back, and we want to support a team, and we want to do things differently. We want to have, people and purpose before profit. We're going to do that. And clearly at the beginning, people and purpose was way before profit because nothing was coming in. And we hemorrhaged cash to the point where, we were playing the shell game of like, well, this bill's coming in. We got payroll. If I just delay this one bill by a couple days, I think I'm going to make it. And leading up to that point, if someone came in and said, my child's doing a lemonade stand to raise money to buy a bicycle for themselves, I was like, great, give them cake. We're going to support it. It was just, we have it. It's going to go bad. We supported all these organizations of if they had a charity event where they were doing a fundraiser, they need dessert, we gave them the dessert. And then we told them, take the money and move it over to their core purpose, that what they were going to spend on it. And then they would ask us, and silly me, I would always answer it this way. And glad I did, but I realized I missed opportunity. Was they, so what do you want in return for it? Nothing. And so they said, okay. And there was an interesting point. There were some nonprofits in there that were like, holy cow, they said nothing. They kind of looked at me funny, but they were like, I want you to succeed. And the others were like, okay, that was easy. And they walked away. And what we found at the very last responsible moment was all those people we said yes to was building a community. All those street corners we stood on, every one of those networking meetings where you look around and there are two people and you're one of them. And you're like, I don't think I grew the business today. And it is and I kept faithfully showing up to every single thing, and we were working ourselves to the bone. And at that last responsible moment, all of a sudden people started coming in. They were like, oh, you're that company that supported us for this. I want to support you. How things going? And I got honest at that point because I thought, well, we might lose the house or something to happen. I go, it's not going so good. And I was open and honest because as a business owner, you're always like, it's like live television because I would do things on QVC and you would be selling this product and everything looks perfect. But behind that camera, there's like 5 fires and the sprinklers going off. You as a business owner, are almost that person on live television. Someone asks you and they go, how's things going? It's going great. Thanks so much for coming in. But I reached that point where I was and I knew these people, we were building relationships. So I said, it's not going so well. And they leaned in, they said, how can we help? And that's where the flywheel started turning.
Wow, Scott, what a story. I mean, you said you were so bullheaded, you weren't going to give in, but give us some context. How long did it take of this giving, where you could finally start to see the light, where you were possibly going to at least break even for a month and be able to pay your bills and not dip into your savings? Do you remember?
Well, we had to almost dip into savings immediately because things were going so bad. We burned through our $200,000 in backup probably within 6 months. And then after that, we were like trying to hold on to every dollar that came in. And then we would then we bring in some money from our savings until our savings were depleted to our personal side. And then it took 18 months for us really to start turning an operating profit. It was just extremely hard. And by the way, there were probably a lot of bad decisions I made in there amongst some good ones. That's the hard learning curve. And frankly, things that had worked in the franchise that we would leverage didn't work in Grand Rapids. And it was funny, at the moment we ran out of money, and this is not a slight to the franchise, it just means that the playbook that you buy into may or may not work. It's proven to work, but some elements don't. The thing that worked was have people try the cake. That piece does work. It's a phenomenal product, but almost all the other tactics came up short. And it was funny, at the moment where I thought we were going to fail coming out Christmas, that was going to be so big, right? That wasn't. And you're sitting in January when it's new year, new you, and no one's coming in because they're at the gym.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Right. I just said to my wife, I go, listen, I guess if we're going to go down with the ship, let's do it our way. And I said, I don't know what that means yet, but here we are. We have nothing to lose. And my brother-in-law, who started Cooper's Hawk Winery and Restaurant, said to us for advice when we entered this, he goes, Scott, if you fail, you're going to lose everything, and you're probably going to have to live in someone's basement, but it's going to be okay. And by the way,
thanks for the inspiration.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. And he said with a smile, and I looked at Tim and I go, well, Tim, you have a really nice basement. And then his smile almost shut down because he realized I may have a family of 5 living in my basement here in how many months? All kidding aside, it's true. You have to face that reality of you could do everything right, and you could still have to call someone and say, I may need to go to your basement.
Right. So there's so much to unpack in your 18-month journey of when you started. And it's easy to look at it now with some levity and say, okay, wow, we made it. And what an incredible story. And you mentioned bullheaded, but there had to have been a couple other things that, like, what kept you going every day? Because, I see that a lot with entrepreneurs, and the statistics aren't great. And I always say a lot of times we quit before we fail, because getting up every day and doing what you guys did for 18 months, just faith, leap of faith, belief in yourself and each other. How did you keep showing up every day?
I think it's faith. Obviously, faith plays a role in it. It depends on what your DNA is. There's a spiritual side to it. I think there's also a drive of, okay, out of necessity, I've got 3 young kids, 1 kid with medical issues. Like, my choice is to make this work or make this work. And, we've talked about this before. Every year there's a freshman class of entrepreneurs. In the freshman class that we started out with, and I'm sure there were definitely more than this group that I was aware of, we're the only ones who are still standing. But the reality was, it's like, I have to make this work. And the thing where you say, well, how'd you keep it going? And, when you're running out of money, I give the analogy of a toothpaste tube. When you have a full tube of toothpaste, I'm pretty sure we're putting too much toothpaste on the toothbrush. When you're running out of toothbrush, because for some reason, the human nature is you don't want to open up a new tube yet, you squeeze out every little bit. And that little bit at the end can last you what feels like a month, right? When you're pushed up against the corner or against the wall, you'll find that toothpaste bottle, and it's amazing what you can live with and what you can live without at home and in your business. And I think that mentality of we can find a way. And by the way, each month that we were doing it, while we were tanking, there were little glimmers of hope and little wins, micro wins, like that worked. And you have to go, listen, that didn't work. Don't do that again. Or if you do that again, you better completely do that differently, but still show up. I guess that's the biggest thing. It's a grind. You just got to do the grind.
You just got to do the grind, grit and resiliency. You hear it over and over. And obviously it worked, because this was back in 2017 when you opened, correct?
Yep.
And so here we are, 2025, things are really well. You have multiple locations, which we'll get into. But what I really want to dive in with you, and I know one time you had said to me, having a strong business for you is a 3-legged stool. Yep. And if you're missing one of those pieces, your stool is going to obviously tip over and you're going to fall. Mm-hmm. And for you, that was obviously an awesome product, which we've had your product. It is awesome. And like you said, it's not arriving frozen in a truck. You guys are baking it, frosting it, which is why it's so awesome. And you have to have amazing service, which you and your wife led with that, taught and trained your employees with that, and then community. So you started out by giving, and that has so been just really a pillar of your business. And we see it. I see you on lots of boards in the Grand Rapids area. I see your cakes everywhere. I see you getting mentioned everywhere. So for you, that really kind of was your marketing strategy?
Hmm.
And I think we want to be careful here as we unpack this, that you can't do this if you're not genuine with it, if it's not really who
Hmm.
you are. I don't want someone to hear this and say, oh, there's a marketing tactic, just like I got to post on social 3 times a week. I have to go donate. That's not going to
Right.
work. You have to show up authentically and your heart has to be in it. So for you, where did that, I mean, I know you said it came from out of just necessity. What else are we going to do? So you give every year in your business, you have giving goals, correct?
Hmm. We do.
Take us through how you kind of manage this piece of the business.
I think out of necessity, when we saw how much cake we were giving away in the first couple of years, we realized, my goodness, we get and still do 2 to 3 requests a day. We have to prioritize. You can't say yes to everything because it will be to your detriment in business. If you truly want to give back, you've got to have longevity. You can't be a flash in the pan. So quickly it was like, we have to create a budget. And we need to track this, and we need to set goals with that. That goal doesn't mean that, like, how much visibility are you going to get out of it, but you have to balance being a profitable business in order to be able, because at the end of the day, I have a responsibility to my 3 kids at home, that they still have a roof on their head and we're achieving Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And then we've got now 35 associates that rely on us to be able to pay for, their necessities. So we had to create a budget structure around it. And I would say also, we had to look at it and say, how does this make sense to the business of what we're trying to accomplish? We have a goal of delivering happiness to the community we love, one bite at a time. But how does each one of these initiatives, how can it transcend just being a donation of cake, but it's truly helping certain organizations grow and achieve core goals in the community that are serving a huge impact for problems in our community? So it required us to dive deeper with the nonprofits and understand who they are. And there's so many great ones. And each one of us is wired with some passion points, right? Ours can be like, because my son and his health issues, Helen DeVos Children's Hospital became an area we leaned in just a little bit more. And I could give you 6 others, that we started to. So we started leaning in deeper and broader with certain organizations. We also found, which was really interesting, was that we could do pop-up sales events where we would break even at hospitals. And since we were engaged in the medical realm, we would set up a pop-up where we sell our buntlets, and essentially we would break even, but we would raise money for the hospital's foundation by partnering with the gift shop. But what it did for us is it created a reoccurring revenue stream, meaning that I may not be profitable, but it kept my team fully busy and engaged, where money was coming in to cover the costs. So imagine, every business has seasonality. Yes, you have to do that pop-up event once a month, sometimes during the month of May, where you're at capacity, but you find a way to do it, because then that takes you through January, February, March, when it's really light, takes you through the summer months. And then there's this weird West Michigan thing, at least we've experienced, that when people come back from the thousands of lakes in our state where everyone vacations, you have to reintroduce yourself to them when they get back, because they've forgotten who you were.
Oh yeah, short-term memory we have.
It does.
Yes.
So it takes us September, October to get them fully back engaged. To remember us.
Yeah.
I would love for you to come in the bakery.
So being consistent for you was key, obviously. And that's a great point
Mm-hmm.
about these pop-up sales. And, I feel like no matter what product you sell or service you sell, there's probably a way you could incorporate that into your business giving model.
There is, and the giving model, it's amazing. It helps both the organization, and like I shared, it helps you. And something I've learned: no matter what your business is, the more reoccurring revenue streams that you can count on every month, the better. Because sometimes things happen. Now, all bets are off if you have a pandemic, right? Yes,
Right.
I said it, the overused word, and COVID-19. But the reality is that's going to happen very rarely. But you are going to have troughs in your business where people slow down spending or what have you, but at least you have the reoccurring revenue stream. It may not bring in as much revenue, but at least you can count on it when things are a little tougher, because it will happen.
I always say reoccurring revenue is how you sleep at night. There's a
Yep.
little bit of peace of mind knowing that's coming in. So something you said that was really impactful is when you chose where you guys were going to either do pop-up sales or just donate product, it wasn't about a visibility strategy. You made that very clear. This isn't a tactic to just, try to market yourself without really choosing to go all in and make this part of your business model, which obviously you have gone all in and made it part of your business model. So for someone who's listening and has been just kind of thinking about how do I get more involved in the community, what would be your first kind of suggestion for them?
I look at it in twofold. I look at it, what your business does, make sure you're exceptional at it if you're going to incorporate into the giving, because it has to be exceptional. You can't have a bad product be an exceptionally engaged person. They don't match up. But if you do have a best-in-class product and then you match full engagement with a nonprofit or just the community in general, it will carry you along. I think that's really important. The other thing is this may or may not make sense in how I say it, but I always said, if everyone would just do things without worrying about who got the credit for it, so much more would get done. So what I want to share with people is jump in. If you're going to, like Kids Food Basket, pack some sack suppers for kids, draw on bags, just engage your community wherever you can and have a servant's heart. And if you have that genuine, authentically engage in a community like West Michigan, will want people like that to be raised up. They're going to ask questions about you because they see you now and they want to know you and they want to know your story. Be ready with your story. Not let me sell myself. Be authentic. Our story. We moved here from Boston. No one knows us here. We opened a bakery. We love this whole, this community so much. We want to make it our forever home. And we have 3 young children. I keep talking to you right now, people are leaning in and now they want to be a part of your story, and that authentically lead with your heart, but have a servant's heart in doing it.
So what you're essentially doing is attracting people into your world, which eventually become a customer. But when you go out looking for the customer, they're hard to find.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit more about the impact this has had internally with your employees, because they are coming to you and they're seeing what you guys are doing as leadership, you and your wife, and how you're putting the community first. Has that made an impact on, is it a little easier for you to attract employees, your retention? What are you seeing on that?
I want to say yes. What I would say is first, I'll give a couple numbers that help kind of give you context of what we've done, which kind of helps when we talk to our associates. Say last year alone, we donated over $105,000 worth of cake and financial donations to the community. Those pop-ups alone we generated over $40,000 in donations. Life to date, we've donated over $500,000. And I share that took 8 years, and it was just faithfully doing the same thing over and over again. It wasn't, there's a great book called Dream Big, Think Small by a local author, Jeff Mannion, and he calls it Ant Power. Just faithfully do something over and over again, and it builds to something amazing, right? And the same thing is what you do with your staff. You can tell your staff that you donate all this money. Look at me. We're such an amazing person. Give these great numbers, right? That doesn't mean anything to them unless you show the same servant's heart and the same caring to your staff. And that's where the two intersect and people start to realize that this might be an okay company. Even if you do everything right, you could have a team walk out on you. It happened to us twice. Mm-hmm. And I could share all the mistakes we made that led up to that. But things like our team falls onto hardship, but we pay well above minimum wage. A number of associates who work for us are one paycheck away from bankruptcy. That one medical event, one car that breaks down, something happens, right? Fraud happens to their account. So we do payroll advance for them, or someone's struggling, we fill their gas tank full of gas and we make sure they have food in their refrigerator. Those are your actions speak louder than words. And then people will buy into what you're doing. My world, it took a huge shift in learning because I used to manage people who made six figures. And while they had their own set of issues, I'm sure, because we're all humans, they were making enough money, they could manage them very easily. When you're dealing with hourly associates with us, what you see is what you get. And so it took a shift of seeing and being close to a lot of issues that we had to take care of them to maintain them as a workforce and for them do the right thing for them, which we should do, but also for them to be loyal to you. You've got to go first. In corporate America, you actually could share all these amazing things with perks, and you can bring, your pet to work. At six figures, you fall in love with it and you get right in line, I think. The other side, you don't. So it took a while, where I think the giving aspect is maybe the cherry on top after you've done everything else behind the scenes. And by the way, just because you did it one day doesn't mean that will last you. You're only as good as your last kind act to your team. And your team, especially today, they talk about everything transparently, from how much they make to how much Scott and Christine maybe have done for people. So it's very transparent. Everything's out in the open like a Google search.
It is. And I think as entrepreneurs, we have to embrace that. And we have to embrace it with our community, our customers, and also our team. I love how you said that. Well, obviously, Scott, it's worked. You guys have built an amazing business. So how many locations do you have now?
So we've got two locations. We've got one near the airport in Grand Rapids, and then we have on 28th Street. And then the other one is on the other side of town, where I always say it's next to Cabela's. People seem to find that one. And we are growing to a third location at the Lakeshore in Muskegon, which we think will be open, God be willing, in the next couple months. We just started construction and are going through the ups and downs of construction.
What a joyful story today. I really just enjoy your attitude, your story of grit, and being transparent that, you put it out there. We almost failed. And entrepreneurship, this is the game we're signing up for. And I feel like in order to keep going, you have to be surrounded by people. I always say entrepreneurship can be really lonely at the top because you don't really have anybody there. But obviously you found your people that kept you going and just wanting to continue to pour into our community. Wow. And what a joy. I mean, I have to believe that you wake up every day and love what you do.
No, we absolutely love what we do. And you hit it right on the head of the only reason why we're sitting here today laughing about, our near failure is because there are hundreds, if not a couple thousand people that walked beside us and introduced us or helped us, and community leaders who brought us in and said, I know you don't have money to sit at this fundraiser at this table. I'm going to invite you. Now I want you to meet these 5 people. And they validated us and allowed us into, and I joked with you about this, and I know it dates me, about Meet the Parents, the Jack Burns Circle of Trust. Every community has it. I think it's a real tough one here in Grand Rapids. But they introduced us to this special giving side of the community, where if these set individuals know you give, they want high tide raise all boats. By the way, I've got a company function next week. Maybe we'll get dessert from you. That's a good idea. Thanks for the introduction.
Exactly. And just even corporate orders, all those things that are going to help you build reoccurring revenue too, just by making those relationships.
Yeah.
So basically, what I want to say and what I feel like is so powerful from your story is we just have to keep showing up. So anybody out there that's just kind of at that point, like, oh, this is a grind. I haven't had a paycheck in 6 months. Just keep showing up. Don't bet on yourself.
You have to, and I think you've seen this too. People read so many books, listen to so many podcasts. They go to see so many speakers, and you see them. They're leaning in, listening, and they're looking for one word. And they're looking for that one thing that they can do, that they can replicate that magic. The answer is, it's your story. One, everyone has their story and path to find their success. No two paths are the same. The other thing is people don't want to hear this. It's just do the work. it's hard. And by the way, it doesn't one day you wake up and the work gets easier. You just get into the rhythm of it and it doesn't feel as hard, but you still have to show up every single day. And I'm still showing up to networking events where I'm like, some of the ones I'm going to, I'm getting better at picking them. There could be 5 people now instead of 2. And I'm one of them, right? It's still that thing. You just don't know. And then what you don't realize in that moment where there's only 5, I'm still going to bring the best version of myself and not be pouty. And that's important. Show up in the best version of yourself, no matter if there's no one in the room or 100 people in the room.
Well, I can't think of a better way to wrap up this conversation than that. That is very inspiring, very motivational. And I just really appreciate you coming on today and sharing the hard truth about entrepreneurship, but also sharing the light that you can win at this. It's a great game when you do win at it. And we need entrepreneurs more than ever. We love the innovation and all what they bring to the party. So thank you for pouring into us this morning. I really appreciate it.
No, thanks for having us on. And thank you. I hear all these great stories about you in the community where you're lifting up these small business owners with their vision and dreams. You get it. You've lived it. You left corporate America. So when you're talking to us, it comes from a lot of experience. So thank you for what you do. I've heard rave reviews where businesses are growing thanks to your help behind the scenes coaching. So we just appreciate everything you're doing in the community.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your kind words. I really appreciate that. So folks, I will put in the links how to get a hold of Scott, because I'm sure you are very generous with your time. If anyone has any questions about entrepreneurship or franchising, because like you said, I thought what you said earlier was really pivotal about, yes, franchise gives you the step-by-step, but every community is different. And so that's where you have to lean in and learn how to be an entrepreneur too.
You do.
Well, best of luck to you as you continue to grow. I'm excited to keep watching, and thanks for being on today.
Thanks again. Love being on.
I told you wouldn't be disappointed listening to Scott's story. And this is a story I would love to share with every entrepreneur out there listening, and please share with your friends. He really talks about what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And one of the most profound things he said was, everyone has their own story and path to success. No 2 paths are the same. But what's universal is showing up and doing the work every day. So today, no matter what stage of business you're in, no matter what feels like you're stacked against you, look at your wins, focus on your wins, and keep showing up for yourself, your community, your staff, and your family. So I hope this episode truly inspires you to keep doing so. If you are a small business owner and your business is not giving you all that you desire, I invite you to learn more about my Earn More, Stress Less program. I help creative entrepreneurs with a 3-step program to help you increase revenue, improve profits, and pay yourself more. My clients experience double-digit growth. Now is not the time to try to do everything alone. I invite you to learn more in the show notes below. Until next time, I encourage you to check in with Scott. His LinkedIn link is below in the show notes. He would love to hear from you. And thanks for listening. Please share this episode with any entrepreneur you know. I know they'll be motivated by it. And keep building, and remember to support your local businesses. They need you more than ever.